think this started really young. I was 8 years old when I started baking. My mom used to bake cakes and cupcakes for us at home, and that's how, I just got into it. And one day I just said, I want to do this myself. And so very early on, I got into baking, and it was like this passion and something I really enjoyed doing. And then later on, when I moved to Canada as a teenager, I got more into cooking because just moving there and going to the supermarket and realizing there's so many ingredients and so many fruits and vegetables that are not available in Pakistan. And so I really got into cooking then, and I started experimenting with all these newly found ingredients and things that I hadn't heard of before. So I think that really fueled the passion, and I got more into it at that point. But at the same time, I was pursuing a career in medicine. So I was studying to become a doctor. So I did my pre-medical, I did my degree in university, and on the side, I kept my baking up, and I actually started doing a business of cakes while I was studying in university. And then it was just word of mouth, through friends and family, that I started getting lots of orders. I was doing wedding cakes as well. And right around the time that I graduated, I thought, is it worth going to med school and spending another 10 years studying to become a doctor? And that's just something I don't see myself practicing. It doesn't bring me that fulfillment that baking and cooking does. So at that point, I had the really tough conversation with my parents that I don't want to become a doctor. I want to become a chef. And it took some convincing, a couple of months, not months, it took like the entire year to get to the point that I'd researched the culinary schools, and I decided, okay, I'm going to have, just change career paths and, think of this professionally. Move was great, especially being a woman, having grown up in Pakistan. You feel like you don't have as many opportunities. You're very sheltered. You're not allowed to do a lot of things. It's a bit confined, I would say. So the move was great. I moved to Canada first as a teenager, and it really opens your eyes to the world, the exposure that you just don't get living in Pakistan. There's just so many different opportunities out there. And the best part is that, there's no limits. Anything that a man can do, women can do. And, that's what I really enjoyed. Also, just when I started high school in Canada, in Pakistan, you're so restricted with your career paths. It's either you're a doctor, or you can become a lawyer, or an engineer. And when I moved to Canada, there were courses that I couldn't even imagine. There was like a carpentry course in like woodwork, and you were like making furniture. And there was like a beauty course. There was a nursing class. There was even like a cooking one. So all these opportunities, all these different subjects, it really opens your eyes up to the world. And I think that was absolutely great. And that's what got me thinking that, there's more I can do. There's other opportunities out there. So it was definitely a great move, and I feel like I was lucky enough to have gotten this opportunity and the exposure it brings. So I'll speak about Feya first. Basically, Feya was this concept that, like almost like a childhood dream that, that 8-year-olds are when I started baking. And, in my head, I always used to think, I'm going to have my own bakery one day. And it was like this sort of concept that came together over the years as I picked up, more experience. And just in London, it took around 2 years of researching for the locations, because back in 2018, when we launched Feya, London was saturated. London was at its peak. The hospitality industry was booming. You could not find an empty unit in a prime location. So that is something we really struggled with. Lots of market research. We pinpointed areas that, this would be good to launch this concept. But again, we'd be pitching to landlords, and the sites would go into bidding, and they would want more experienced operators in there rather than somebody coming in with no experience in London, a young chef, fresh out of culinary school, and then saying, this is my concept. So it was really hard. That was one of the biggest challenges, we faced, and we had to put in a hefty deposit to secure the site, the first Feya site, which is just by Bond Street Station. But I feel like, it was all worth it in the end. It was a bit of, obviously it was a new concept and we were just starting out, but it all just, came together. I looked at what was missing in the market, did my research. It was extremely competitive. There were lots of cafes out there. And Feya came about as, we brought this revolution in food using the edible flowers, which back in 2018, we were the pioneers in starting this trend, because none of the other cafes or restaurants were doing it to the extent that, we started just adding edible flowers into our food as part of, healthy, because they're like considered superfoods. So most of our menu is focused on superfoods, healthy eating, vegan, gluten-free as well, no artificial flavors, preservatives. So, we kind of brought about this revolution using edible flowers to fuse that into the floral theme of Feya. And then for DYCE, we actually got lucky because the unit right next to Feya became available. And then we pitched this concept, which was something that was missing. And honestly, that was like a personal passion. When I was living in Canada, I loved bubble tea. And it was something that, like I thought, one day I can have my own bubble tea shop. That's how much I was having bubble tea every day. It wasn't healthy. But I think that kind of fueled that passion that, I can do this. I can have my own bubble tea store. And that's how DYCE came about. And it was basically this idea of doing ice cream, basically simple desserts that you can build by yourself. So we were doing basically how it started off. We had like bases. You could choose a brownie, a donut, baklava, and then add an ice cream flavor and then do toppings. So you build it and then it becomes quite crazy, and people can add like all sorts of toppings to it, and it becomes really Instagrammable. And then the customer is creating their own dessert basically. So, they take pride in it and they'll share it on social media. Because back in 2018, it was all about Instagram. So both of our concepts, we had to make sure that there was something Instagrammable about it. People should be talking about it. At Feya as well, the food was like a piece of art. And that's sort of what got the momentum started on social media. And it really helped, get the brands to take off. So definitely, I mean, it hasn't been easy. And interestingly enough, when I went to culinary school here in London, it was actually UK's oldest cookery school. And in the history of the school, I was the only female Pakistani student to have ever attended. And to me, I mean, it comes as a bit of a surprise because, yes, I know the culinary industry isn't really, especially in Pakistan, women are just expected to cook, for the household, and women are looked at more like as traditional cooks, if that's what it's, the expectation is basically. You don't expect women to go out there, set up their own restaurants. It's more like you have to cook, for your family. And it was that kind of stereotype, that I wanted to break. And also the challenges that came with it not being, a very female-friendly industry. When I was in Canada and I was sort of dipping my toe into the water and I wanted to experience the culinary world. So while I was still studying pre-medicine, I wanted to go into just explore, how it is working in a restaurant and just, get a feel for it. So I was working on the side in this restaurant, which was super busy, amongst the top 5 restaurants in Toronto, and obviously the kitchen was a manic. But I hadn't had any experience working in the kitchens. And I remember how awful that used to be. It was a completely male-dominated kitchen. It was an extremely busy restaurant. It was so stressful. There were like all these men. I'm very petite as well, so there were all these men 6 foot and taller, and then there was me looking like a shrimp, and they were swearing, and it was just the worst kind of environment for a woman to be in. And I remember the shifts would finish at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., just being on my feet all day in the kitchen, trying to just get everything done, and the chefs yelling. Like, it just wasn't very, it just kind of, it was very disheartening. And I remember just thinking, this is not what it should be like, like, I don't want to do this. And taking from that, yes, I was disheartened, but then I knew what the Feya kitchen should not look like. And that's what I tried to create, is to make sure that it's not stressful. It's not, yes, obviously you have to, it is about time, your dishes need to come out quickly. You don't want the customers to be waiting, but it should not be stressful. And women should not feel like they cannot work in such kitchens. So that was like my biggest challenge, and something that I learned from. It took a lot of research, for the marble art unit. We wanted to collaborate with an artist and then bring like these murals, because we've got really tall ceilings. And so we had these big walls that we thought, it would be great to have just artwork on these, keeping in mind, our theme for women empowerment. So I came across Ramona. I love her style and her aesthetics, and just the synergies. And recently, her Wear Your Crown movement was just something that really caught my attention, because it aligns with Feya's core values, and our mission to empower women and to reduce gender pay gap. So it was just amazing, finding somebody with the same sort of values, with the same synergies, and then just, it was really crazy having these huge murals, and she'd never done murals of this size before. So literally, I think she worked day and night as well just to get it all done. And she's from Romania, so when she actually came to London, I sent her the dimensions of the two walls. But when she saw the walls, I mean, it was quite a big project, and she was up on the scaffolding, painting. It took her a week to complete both the murals, but I think she did a fantastic job. I think it's hard to pick one, because Feya has collaborated with loads of brands. We've also been featured on television. ITV's Made in Chelsea, as well as we worked with Vogue, BBC. We partnered with Jennifer Lopez makeup artist Scott Barnes as well. It's actually been, we've done some collaborations with beauty brands as well, which has been quite fun, because any collaborations where they expect you to sort of match the theme of their brand, and they want the food to be a certain theme, a color. That's been very interesting, because I'm obviously, I'm the head chef behind Feya. So I have been, given a challenge. Okay, I've got to create this food to match this brand's aesthetic. And so those beauty brand collaborations have been amazing. We've done like a complete cafe takeover as well. We did a recent one with Florence by Mills, which was Millie Bobby Brown, which was great. She just like took over the cafe, launched their beauty brand. And so that was something which was great as well, as with the Royal Ascot, London Fashion Week. So all the fashion collaborations we've catered a few times in Vogue House, and that's also been something that is up there with my favorites. So 2020, when the pandemic hit and we were in lockdown, we had just launched our second site, Feya. So we launched the Knightsbridge location in the end of 2019, in December. And just 3 months later, we were locked down. And we had no idea how long it was going to last, how long the cafes are going to be closed for. And it was just very unpredictable and very uncertain. And that actually gave us the time to work on this retail line, which was something that, at the back of our minds, as a team, we were thinking that we should have our own products, and we should. So, I mean, the idea was loosely there, but I think during the pandemic, we actually got a chance to work on that more. So what we did was we commissioned these female artists, and we got this concept together that, it should be retail with a mission. And so what we did was we have our charity Feya Cares, and the profits, 10% of the profits from the sale of all our retail products goes towards our charity. And not only that, but each product comes with a message of empowerment and motivation. For example, with the teas, the message is self-care. So the artwork on the teas, it has a focus on self-care. There's a message at the back which, promotes that. On the chocolates, it's reach for the stars. For the truffles, we're featuring, diversity and raising awareness. For the hot chocolates, it's power in numbers, unity. So each product actually has a unique message, which we're trying to convey. And at the same time, there's a charity initiative, which is also something that we've always, as a brand, thought about the social responsibility and the social impact, and made sure that, we are doing something to give back to society in a way. Even a part of the charity, I mean, like I said, since we first started Feya, there was always this element of a social responsibility. So when we first started, we didn't have the retail line and we didn't have a partner charity, but we were donating our surplus food to those in need. So we were partnering with a charity, and they would come and collect, the food that would have wasted otherwise, and then they would redistribute this amongst, the needy. So we started doing this, and this is something that's been part of the brand, is redistributing the food. And then later on, we partnered with a few charities, including Young Women's Trust, the work with women and children, and it's been great to be a part of it and just make an impact. We've also partnered with British Heart Foundation, a few other small charities like Refuge. So it's always been great, and we've that's one of the best parts of the business is being able to give back. Yeah, I feel like the biggest one was women being viewed as traditional chefs, and not really expected to cook outside of the house. So I think that was one of the biggest ones that I wanted to break for myself as well, that you can make a career out of this, and it's not just something you can do from home. Because I know now in Pakistan there's a lot of women who are going on to set up their businesses, and they're doing it very successfully, but they're still doing it from home. And I know it's scary to go out there, to launch yourself, to get a site, and to do it more commercially. And it is a bit scary, and it's easy to do it from the comfort of your home. But it's definitely something that can be done. The other one is that I feel like the business world, even now in Pakistan, it's not very common it's not very common for women to just go out there, especially abroad, overseas, for women to set up their own businesses and to set up and run them successfully. I think that was one that women are still struggling, or I think there's a lack of confidence or lack of support. But that is something that definitely women can do, and should be getting more into. I don't think any business comes with it. That doesn't come easy. There's always challenges. There's always going to be setbacks. There's always going to be obstacles. And especially when we first opened, I had no experience working in London in the restaurant industry, running my own business. And London was a very competitive market. It was very saturated. The hospitality industry was very cutthroat. And no matter how much research you put into making your brand unique and making your offering unique, it's very hard to stay unique and to set yourself apart. Because what happens is, the one thing in the industry that we realized, we started this trend of edible flowers on food. We were a very small business. Very quickly, a lot of other businesses just started copying this trend. And we kind of got lost in the flow, and people didn't realize that, okay, Feya actually started this trend. And then any dishes that, for example, a rose avocado toast was something so unique, because we were making like arose out of the avocado. And that was like a Feya original. It's still one of our best sellers and one of the dishes we're well known for. Very quickly, a lot of the other cafes started, mimicking our dishes and our recipes. And that's one of the things that, you cannot patent your recipes. So I mean, in a way, it's good because then you have to. What I do is, I feel like it's all about innovation and it's about constantly evolving as a brand. I look at, okay, now we're going to look at something else, and it keeps me going constantly. But that's the thing, part of it is it does get a bit disappointing to see, your dishes copied and being sold in even places that are more well established than we were at the time. One of the other challenges we really faced was with the staff. Also, one of the challenges that come being a female chef is a lot of the times the staff did not take me seriously. And I was young, and, it was just much harder to assert myself. And that obviously came with time, came with experience. And in the beginning, I was actually, just before I launched Feya, I became a mother. So my daughter was born and she was 5 months old when I opened up Feya. So at that time, I was all about, giving young mothers an opportunity, because I was a young mother myself. So what I did was I hired, I think in the beginning, we had 8 to 10 staff members for the first location. And 4 of them, especially working in the kitchen, were young mothers. And they didn't have experience in the kitchen. But I thought, I can train them, I can give them the experience and, just give them that platform and that opportunity. And that was one of the things that actually became a challenge because the inexperience, and I had to teach them. And so I think that was one of the things I realized that, it helps having the experienced staff. And the staffing definitely was a big challenge. It still is. I feel like in this kind of industry, it's always going to be, staff is going to come and go, but, you learn along the way. I feel like the Forbes recognition, it was a huge honor, and it just makes the entire journey worthwhile. And it's providing more motivation for me to keep moving forward, especially, it came at a time in 2021 when we were just coming out of the lockdowns and, we're still in the midst of the pandemic. So, it really provided that motivation to keep pushing forward. Lots of networking opportunities came out of it. It gave a great boost to the brand as well, help with the brand awareness, lots of media coverage as well. So I feel like, it really helped at a time when the brand really needed it. So 70% of our workforce is female, and we make sure that, we're maintaining this. And that's one of the ways that, I just want to give them the opportunity and the platform, that if I can do it, they can as well. So it's been about empowering women, young mothers as well. And just, through our charity initiative as well, through our retail line. So, it's been like one of our core values for women empowerment and also for reducing gender pay gap. That is something, that our business is very aware of, and it's something that we are actively working towards because I feel like there shouldn't be a disparity in the pay for men and women, and that's not how we see it as a business. For us, regardless of the gender, the pay would be equal. So I would say never set limits for yourself. You need to find your niche. You need to be confident and comfortable with your heritage, and you should actually use it and derive inspiration from it to keep you moving forward. And you can do anything you set your hearts to.